The courtroom is a kingdom, and Prosecutor Marcus Thorne is its king. He sits not at the prosecution table, but roams before it, a predator pacing the edges of his territory. His suit is Italian silk, a shade of charcoal so dark it seems to drink the light. It is a suit that costs more than the defendant will likely earn in a decade, a fact Thorne wears as comfortably as the fabric itself. He is a man carved from granite and prejudice, his jaw set, his eyes chips of cold, blue ice. His voice is a weapon, a deep baritone that he wields with surgical precision, now booming with righteous fury, now dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that draws the jury in. Today, his kingdom is at its most resplendent. The gallery is packed. The media is a row of vultures, pens poised over notebooks. This is a show, and Marcus Thorne is the star. His gaze sweeps over the room, a monarch surveying his domain. He sees the jury, a collection of faces he has already molded, their expressions a mixture of awe and intimidation. He sees the judge, Arthur Graves, a man whose career Thorne had personally salvaged, a man who now sits on the bench like a grateful toad, ready to flick his gavel at Thorne's command. And he sees the defense. A sneer threatens the corner of his perfect, patrician mouth. The defendant is Leo Washington. 22 years old. He is a boy drowning in a man's suit, a polyester blend from a department store rack that hangs on his thin frame like a shroud. His knuckles are white where he grips the edge of the table. His eyes are wide, terrified, darting from Thorne to the judge and back again, searching for a lifeline in an ocean of hostility. Beside him sits Sarah Jenkins, the public defender. She is young, earnest, and hopelessly outmatched. Her files are stacked in teetering piles, her notes a chaotic scrawl. She wears a perpetual look of frazzled desperation, a swimmer already exhausted, miles from shore. Thorne almost pities her. Almost. But pity is a weakness, and Marcus Thorne has none. He looks past them, to the first row of the public gallery. There sits the defendant's family. A mother, her face etched with a grief so profound it seems to have aged her overnight. A younger sister, clutching her mother's hand, tears tracking silently down her cheeks. And next to them, another woman. She is different. She is still, a point of absolute calm in the swirling anxiety of the room. She is young, perhaps in her late 20s, and dressed in clothes that are simple, functional, and devoid of any brand or statement. Her hair is braided in intricate patterns, framing a face with high cheekbones and intelligent, watchful eyes. She does not look afraid. She looks analytical. Thorne's gaze lingers on her for a fraction of a second. He registers her as a non-entity, another piece of the sad, pathetic tableau of the defendant's life. He dismisses her and turns his full, formidable attention back to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice booms, the sound filling every corner of the cavernous room. We are here today because of greed. He gestures with a sweeping, dramatic hand toward Leo Washington. A greed so audacious, so complex, it is almost brilliant. He pauses, letting the word brilliant hang in the air before twisting it into an insult. Almost. The prosecution will prove that this young man, Leo Washington, a man with no discernible skills, no education to speak of, no prospects, somehow masterminded a scheme to defraud the Sterling Thorne Corporation of over $5 million. He lets the irony soak in. Sterling Thorne. His family's corporation. This is not just a case for him. It is personal. It is a defense of his legacy, his name, his world. He is a street-level hustler who got his hands on a powerful weapon, a computer, Thorne continues, his voice dripping with condescension. He thought he could play in the big leagues. He thought he could steal from his betters and get away with it. Sarah Jenkins rises, her voice a timid squeak. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is characterizing the defendant. Judge Graves barely looks at her. Overruled. It's an opening statement, Counselor. A little latitude is permitted. Thorne gives Jenkins a smile that is all teeth. He turns back to the jury. But he made a mistake. He got sloppy. He left a trail. A trail of digital breadcrumbs that our experts followed right to his door. He walks over to the evidence table and picks up a thick binder. Emails. Encrypted messages. Bank transfers. A web of deceit so tangled, so intricate, that it could only have been spun by a cunning and dishonest mind. He throws the binder down on the table. It lands with a loud, definitive thud that makes Leo flinch. The evidence is overwhelming. It is irrefutable. And by the end of this trial, you will have no other choice but to find the defendant, Leo Washington, guilty as charged. He walks back to his table and sits, the picture of absolute confidence. The air in the room is thick with his certainty. He has already won. This is all just theatre. In the gallery, the woman with the braided hair does not move. Her eyes, dark and unblinking, are fixed on Marcus Thorne. Her name is Anaya Sharma. And Leo Washington is her brother. The trial begins, and it is a massacre. Thorne calls a parade of witnesses. Financial experts who speak in a dizzying torrent of jargon, their charts and graphs painting a damning picture of Leo's guilt. Detectives who speak of the digital evidence with an unshakable certainty that leaves no room for doubt. Each witness is a nail hammered into Leo's coffin. Sarah Jenkins tries to fight back. Her cross-examinations are tentative, her questions easily deflected by Thorne's polished witnesses. She objects, but her objections are swatted away by Judge Graves like bothersome flies. Sustained. Overruled. Counselor, please move it along. The courtroom becomes a feedback loop of Thorne's power. His confidence inflates with every victory. The jury watches him, their faces reflecting his narrative. They see Leo not as a scared young man, but as the cunning predator Thorne has described. Thorne enjoys this. He feeds on the despair of the defense table, on the crushing weight of the evidence he has so carefully manufactured. He glances at Leo's family. The mother is weeping openly now, her quiet sobs a symphony to his ears. The sister is pale, her youthful face a mask of horror. And the other one? Anaya. She is still watching him. Her stillness is starting to annoy him. It is a silent defiance, a refusal to break, and it irritates him, a single discordant note in his masterpiece of destruction. He decides to turn up the heat. He calls his final witness for the day, a senior executive from his family's company. Under Thorne's leading questions, the executive paints a picture of a company violated, of trust betrayed, of hard-working employees whose jobs were put at risk by Leo's greed. It is all lies, but it is powerful. When he is finished, Thorne turns, not to his table, but toward the gallery. He looks directly at Leo's mother. And for this betrayal, he says, his voice dropping to a somber, menacing tone, the law demands a heavy price. We will be asking for the maximum sentence. 25 years in a federal penitentiary. A gasp ripples through the gallery. Leo's mother lets out a choked cry. 25 years. A lifetime for a young man. A life he will spend in a concrete box, paying for his arrogance. He lets his eyes drift from the mother to Anaya. He holds her gaze, a silent challenge. Break. Show me your fear. Anaya's expression does not change. But inside, a switch has been flipped. The cold, analytical observer is gone. Something else is taking its place. Something hard and unyielding. A recess is called. The moment the judge leaves the bench, Anaya is moving. She walks through the swinging gate that separates the gallery from the well of the court. A bailiff steps forward to stop her. You can't be. Thorne waves him off. It's fine, let her pass. Let the family have their little moment of despair. He wants a front row seat to their brokenness. Anaya ignores him completely. She walks directly to Sarah Jenkins, who is trying to comfort a trembling Leo. Mr. Washington needs a moment, Anaya says, her voice quiet but firm. She places a reassuring hand on her brother's shoulder. She leans in and whispers something to Sarah Jenkins. Sarah's eyes widen. She looks from Anaya to the judge's empty chair and back again. She shakes her head. I can't. He'll never allow it. It's procedural madness. You can, Anaya says, her voice still a whisper, but now laced with steel. You must. Thorne watches this exchange with amusement. What could they possibly be cooking up? Some desperate, last-ditch plea for mercy. He saunters over, unable to resist the opportunity to gloat. Planning your appeal already, counselor, he says to Sarah. A bit premature, but I admire the optimism. He then turns his attention to Anaya. He notices her accent for the first time. It is a precise, educated sound, but layered with the soft, melodic cadences of a London upbringing and something else underneath, a faint lilt he can't quite place. It is not the accent of his world. It is other. And in Thorne's mind, other means less. He gives her a patronizing smile. I hope you're not giving your counsel any bad advice. This is a very complex case. It requires a sophisticated understanding of our legal system. Anaya meets his gaze. The only thing complex here is the web of lies you've constructed, Mr. Thorne. The directness of the retort surprises him. The quiet woman has a spark. He decides to extinguish it. I would be careful with your accusations, miss, he says, his voice losing its playful edge and taking on a darker tone. This is my courtroom. It is a court of law, Anaya corrects him gently. It belongs to the people. To justice. That does it. The sheer, unmitigated gall. His face hardens, the mask of civility dropping away to reveal the raw arrogance beneath. Listen to me, he snarls, leaning in close. Your brother is going to prison for a very long time. And you, with your little platitudes and your funny way of talking, can do nothing to stop it. He straightens up, his voice rising so the whole courtroom can hear. And from now on, if you insist on speaking to a member of the bar, I suggest you do so in proper English. This is a court of law, not some back-alley market. The line is drawn. The insult is public, vicious, and deeply personal. It is designed to humiliate, to put her in her place, to remind her of her station. He expects her to shrink. He expects tears, or maybe a flash of impotent anger. He gets neither. Anaya Sharma looks at him, and for the first time, she smiles. It is a small, cold, terrifying smile. Thank you for the advice, Mr. Thorne, she says, her voice perfectly even. I will be sure to be as articulate as possible. She turns back to Sarah Jenkins. Call me as a witness, she says, no longer whispering. Call me to the stand as an expert for the defense. Thorne throws his head back and laughs. It is a genuine, booming, unrestrained laugh of pure derision. An expert, he chokes out, wiping a tear of mirth from his eye. An expert in what? Victimhood. The bailiffs chuckle. Even the court reporter cracks a smile. The judge re-enters the courtroom, and the laughter subsides. What is the meaning of this? Judge Graves demands, his piggy eyes darting around the room. Sarah Jenkins, bolstered by Anaya's impossible calm, stands on shaky legs. Your Honor, she begins, her voice trembling slightly. The defense would like to amend its witness list. We wish to call a surprise expert witness. The judge scowls. Absolutely not. The witness list is closed. A ridiculous request. Thorne smirks. I must concur, Your Honor. The defense is clearly flailing, resorting to desperate and unprofessional tactics. Who is this supposed expert? The judge asks dismissively. Anaya steps forward. I am, she says. The judge stares at her, his expression a mixture of confusion and contempt. And who, exactly, are you? Before Anaya can answer, a low hum fills the room. The large monitor on the wall, the one used for displaying evidence, flickers to life. It glows with a bright, blue screen. Thorne frowns. What is this? Who authorized this? The court technician shrugs, looking just as confused as everyone else. It's not me. The system is being accessed remotely. Then, text begins to appear on the screen. White letters against the blue background, typed out with a slow, deliberate finality. The first line reads, Anaya Sharma, Ph.D. A murmur ripples through the jury box. Thorne's smirk falters. The next line appears beneath the first. Area of specialization, forensic linguistics and computational stylometry. The room is silent now. The only sound is the soft clicking of the virtual keyboard as the next lines are added, one by one, a cascade of credentials that lands with the force of a physical blow. Education, University of Oxford, Rhodes Scholar, Balliol College. Thorne's face goes pale. The color drains from his cheeks, leaving behind a sickly, waxy sheen. Oxford. Doctoral thesis, the syntactical fingerprint, identifying authorship in anonymized digital communication. He feels a cold dread begin to creep up his spine. Professional consultations. MI6, United Kingdom. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Cybercrimes Division, USA. Securities and Exchange Commission, USA. Scotland Yard, Economic Crime Unit, UK. The jury is staring at the screen, their mouths agape. The reporters in the press gallery are scribbling furiously. Judge Graves looks as if he's been struck by lightning, his jaw hanging open, his face a mask of utter disbelief. The list continues. Publications, Code Switching as Criminal Concealment, Cambridge Law Journal, The Grammar of Fraud, Yale University Press. Languages, fluent in English, French, Yoruba, Mandarin, and Python. The final line appears. Current position, Chief Forensic Analyst, the Aegis Initiative. The screen holds on the completed curriculum vitae. It hangs in the air of the courtroom, a silent, devastating testament. The power dynamic in the room has not just shifted. It has been utterly and irrevocably shattered. The kingdom has fallen. The king is a fraud. Anaya Sharma turns from the screen and looks at Marcus Thorne. Her expression is calm, her eyes are clear. She speaks, and her voice, the same voice he had mocked just moments before, is now the most powerful sound in the room. Her accent is no longer a liability. It is the mark of a world-class intellect, a citizen of a global community far beyond the petty confines of Thorne's inherited kingdom. I believe the term is expert witness, she says. Will that be a proper English enough for you, Mr. Thorne? Thorne cannot speak. His throat is dry, his mind a maelstrom of panic. This is impossible. This cannot be happening. He has been played. He looks at the woman before him, really looks at her for the first time. He doesn't see a grieving sister from the inner city. He sees a giant. He sees the architect of his own destruction. Judge Graves, finally regaining some semblance of composure, slams his gavel down, the sound unnaturally loud in the stunned silence. Order? Order in this court. He looks at Anaya, then at the screen, then at Thorne, his face a mess of confusion and dawning terror. Is this legitimate? He stammers, gesturing at the screen. From the back of the courtroom, a new voice speaks, calm and authoritative. It is, Your Honor. A man in a sharp, conservative suit stands up. He is holding a tablet. My name is Julian Croft. I am counsel for the Aegis Initiative. I can confirm that Dr. Sharma is who she says she is, and I have just forwarded her credentials, along with a motion to have her recognized as an expert witness, to the court clerk. The Aegis Initiative. Thorne knows the name. A secretive, absurdly well-funded private organization that takes on cases of catastrophic injustice. They are legal ghosts, spoken of in hushed whispers. They have unlimited resources and a roster of the world's best investigators, analysts, and lawyers. They do not lose. Thorne feels a wave of nausea. He is not just up against a brilliant witness. He is up against a phantom army. The judge, seeing no way out, makes a decision born of pure self-preservation. He needs to appear impartial, now more than ever. Very well, he says, his voice strained. The court recognizes Dr. Anaya Sharma as an expert in the field of forensic linguistics. You may take the stand. Anaya walks to the witness box. She moves with a quiet, unhurried grace. Every eye in the room is on her. She is sworn in, her hand steady on the Bible. Sarah Jenkins, looking as if she has just been handed the keys to the kingdom, stands to begin her questioning. Dr. Sharma, she begins, her voice now filled with a newfound confidence. Could you please explain to the court, in layman's terms, what it is you do? Anaya turns her attention to the jury. She speaks to them not as an academic, but as a teacher. Every person who writes has a unique voice, she explains, her tone clear and engaging. Just like a fingerprint, our choice of words, our punctuation, our sentence structure, even our common mistakes, create a distinct and measurable pattern. This is called a stylometric profile, or a linguistic fingerprint. She gestures to the screen, which now displays a complex-looking graph. My job is to analyze that pattern. I can take any piece of writing, an email, a text message, a corporate document, and determine, with a very high degree of statistical certainty, who wrote it. Or, more importantly, who did not. Sarah nods. And have you had occasion to analyze the key documents in this case? The emails and messages allegedly sent by my client, Leo Washington. I have, Anaya confirms. I analyzed all 47 documents submitted as evidence by the prosecution. And what did you find? I found two things, Anaya says, her eyes flicking for a moment to Marcus Thorne. First, I can state with a 998% probability that Leo Washington did not write any of them. A gasp goes through the courtroom. Leo puts his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking with relief. The linguistic fingerprint of the author of those documents is fundamentally inconsistent with Mr. Washington's established writing style, which I compiled from over 3 years of his personal emails, school papers, and social media posts. The screen changes, showing two graphs side by side. One is labeled Leo Washington. The other is labeled Forged Documents. They are wildly different. As you can see, Anaya continues, Mr. Washington's writing is characterized by modern colloquialisms, a heavy use of contractions, and an average sentence length of 114 words. The fraudulent documents, however, display a much more formal, almost archaic style. They have an average sentence length of 237 words, a near-total absence of contractions, and a peculiar and consistent overuse of certain words, such as henceforth, moreover, and thus. Thorne feels the blood drain from his face. Those are his words. His favorite, pompous, rhetorical flourishes. He uses them all the time. He thought it made him sound intelligent, powerful. Now, he sees them for what they are. A signature. A confession. But you said you found two things, Doctor, Sarah prompts. What was the second? Anaya pauses. She looks directly at Marcus Thorne, her gaze pinning him to his chair. The second thing I found, she says, her voice dropping slightly, is the identity of the true author. Thorne's heart hammers against his ribs. No. She can't. She can't have any of his writing to compare it to. Discovery. He handled it all himself. He was careful. In order to create a comparative profile, Anaya explains to the jury, I needed a significant sample of writing from other individuals connected to the case. Thanks to a standard discovery motion filed by the Public Defender's Office, I was provided with over 500 emails written by the lead prosecutor, Mr. Marcus Thorne. Sarah Jenkins had filed that motion weeks ago, a boilerplate request. Thorne had fulfilled it himself, dumping thousands of irrelevant emails on her, a classic tactic to overwhelm a small legal team. He had buried her in data. He had never imagined she had a world-class analyst waiting to sift through it. He had handed her the gun she was now pointing at his head. The screen changes again. A third graph appears, labeled Marcus Thorne. It is a perfect, undeniable match for the graph of the forged documents. The courtroom erupts. The judge bangs his gavel, but it's a futile gesture. The dam has broken. Objection! Thorne screams, leaping to his feet. This is a fabrication. A digital trick. This is an outrageous and baseless accusation. Anaya remains perfectly calm. It is not an accusation, Mr. Thorne, she says, her voice cutting through the noise. It is a mathematical certainty. The author of the documents used to frame my brother has the same linguistic fingerprint as you. The same overuse of the word henceforth, she continues, her voice a clinical, damning indictment. The same tendency to use semicolons where a comma would suffice. The same idiosyncratic misspelling of the word liaison, you spell it laison. Every single time. She points to the screen. Examples flash up. One from the forged evidence. One from an email Thorne wrote to a colleague just 3 weeks ago. Both with the same glaring error. Laison. Thorne stumbles back into his chair, his face ashen. He is trapped. Exposed. But Anaya is not finished. She is not here just to exonerate her brother. She is here to burn the entire corrupt system to the ground. This stylistic analysis, of course, only points to authorship, she says. It does not, in itself, prove criminal intent. For that, we need to look at the motive. The screen changes again. This time, it displays a series of complex financial charts. The alleged victim in this case is the Sterling Thorne Corporation, Anaya says. A company that, until 3 months ago, was facing a catastrophic stock devaluation due to a series of poor investments. Thorne's blood runs cold. How could she know that? The information was buried under layers of corporate confidentiality. However, Anaya continues, a company can be insured against specific types of criminal activity, including large-scale digital fraud. A successful prosecution of such a fraud would trigger a substantial insurance payout. In this case, a payout of $50 million. She highlights a number on the chart. 50 million. 10 times the amount Leo was accused of stealing. The fraud wasn't the $5 million Leo Washington was accused of taking. The fraud was the accusation itself. A scheme to frame an innocent young man to trigger a massive insurance payment and save a failing company. She lets that sink in. The jury is staring at Thorne now, their faces masks of dawning horror and disgust. They no longer see a king. They see a monster. And who stood to benefit most from this $50 million windfall? Anaya asks rhetorically. The majority shareholders of the Sterling Thorne Corporation. A company whose primary shareholder is a man by the name of Marcus Thorne. Thorne's composure finally shatters. He is a cornered animal. Lies, he shrieks, his voice a raw, desperate rasp. This is a conspiracy. She's a witch. She's twisting words, using trickery to destroy my reputation. He points a trembling finger at Anaya. She is the criminal here. Her and her street thug brother. They planned this all along. His rant is cut short by a sound. A clear, crisp audio recording begins to play over the courtroom's speaker system. It is Thorne's voice. Arrogant. Confident. Utterly damning. The kid is the perfect target, his recorded voice says, filled with smug satisfaction. No resources, no connections. The public defender is a joke. We'll paint him as some kind of ghetto supergenius. The jury will eat it up. By the time they convict, our stock will be back in the green. Graves owes me, he'll make sure the sentence is long enough to be convincing. The recording continues. Thorne's voice, captured on a wire he never knew existed, lays out the entire conspiracy. He names his co-conspirators within the company. He implicates Judge Graves. He uses racial slurs to describe Leo and his family. It is the final, irrefutable nail in his coffin. When the recording ends, the silence in the courtroom is absolute. It is the silence of a tomb. Marcus Thorne stands frozen, his face a grotesque mask of pure terror. He looks at the jury. He sees only contempt. He looks at the judge. He sees only panic. He looks at Anaya. He sees only the calm, unwavering certainty of justice. Then, the great oak doors at the back of the courtroom swing open with a deafening crash. 2 men and a woman enter. They are dressed in dark, immaculate suits. They move with an unnerving purpose, their eyes scanning the room. Federal Bureau of Investigation. They walk past the stunned gallery, their hard-soled shoes echoing on the marble floor. They do not look at the judge. They do not look at Anaya. They walk directly to the prosecution table. One of them holds up a pair of handcuffs. Marcus Thorne, the lead agent, says, his voice devoid of all emotion. "You are under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to obstruct justice, evidence tampering, and perjury." Thorne makes a strangled sound, a mix between a sob and a gasp. "No," he whispers. "No, this is my courtroom. You can't." The agent is unmoved. He grabs Thorne's arm and wrenches it behind his back. The click of the handcuffs locking into place is the loudest sound Thorne has ever heard. It is the sound of his world ending. As they lead him away, stripped of his jacket, his pride, his power, he turns to look at Anaya one last time. His face is a ruin of disbelief and hate. "You," he seethes, his voice a venomous hiss. "Who are you?" Anaya meets his gaze. Her face holds no triumph, no malice. Only a profound and weary certainty. "I am the woman you underestimated," she says, her voice quiet but carrying across the silent, watching room. "You demanded I speak in a language you could understand. I hope my testimony was sufficiently articulate." The fallout is swift and brutal. It is a cleansing fire. Marcus Thorne, denied bail as a flight risk, refuses to cooperate. He believes his power, his name, will protect him. He is wrong. The Aegis Initiative's legal team, working with federal prosecutors, buries him under a mountain of evidence. The audio recording is just the beginning. They have financial records, offshore accounts, and sworn testimony from co-conspirators who rush to turn state's evidence to save themselves. Thorne is convicted on all counts. The judge, citing the egregious abuse of public trust, sentences him to the maximum penalty. 30 years in a federal supermax prison. He is disbarred. His assets are seized. The Sterling Thorne Corporation, now a symbol of corporate malfeasance, collapses into bankruptcy. Its name becomes a curse. Judge Arthur Graves is impeached in record time. He is tried, convicted, and sentenced to 15 years for his role in the conspiracy. By a twist of bureaucratic irony, he is assigned to the same prison complex as the man he once served. They are neighbors in a world of concrete and steel, 2 fallen kings in a forgotten kingdom. The investigation triggered by Anaya's revelation spreads like a virus through the district attorney's office. A special task force is formed to review every single case Marcus Thorne ever prosecuted. They uncover a pattern of corruption stretching back over a decade. Dozens of wrongful convictions are overturned. Families are reunited. Innocent men and women walk free, blinking in the sunlight, their lives return to them. Leo Washington is officially and publicly exonerated. All charges are expunged from his record as if they never existed. The city, shamed by the scandal, offers him a substantial settlement. But Anaya provides him with something more valuable. Using a portion of the Aegis Initiative's vast resources, she establishes the Leo Washington Educational Trust, a fund to ensure he can complete his education and pursue his dreams without financial burden. He is finally free. Sarah Jenkins, no longer timid, becomes a warrior. She quits the public defender's office and accepts a senior position at a new legal foundation funded entirely by Anaya. The Sharma Center for Forensic Justice. Its mission is simple, to use cutting-edge technology and linguistic analysis to fight for the wrongfully accused. She is no longer outmatched. She now has an army at her back. 2 years later. The wood-paneled lecture hall is packed, the air buzzing with the energy of bright, ambitious minds. This is the heart of a prestigious university, a place where the next generation of lawyers and leaders is forged. At the podium stands Dr. Anaya Sharma. She is dressed in a sharp, elegant blazer, a stark contrast to the simple clothes she wore in the courtroom. She commands the room with an easy, quiet authority. She is lecturing on the intersection of language, power, and the law. In the front row, a young man sits, listening intently. He is dressed in a crisp, well-fitting shirt. His face is open, intelligent, and confident. He scribbles notes in a worn leather-bound journal. It is Leo Washington. He is 2 years into his computer science degree, at the top of his class. He is building a new life, one of promise and purpose. Beside him sits Sarah Jenkins, here to help Anaya interview candidates for the center's new fellowship program. Anaya brings her lecture to a close. The greatest flaw of the arrogant, she says, her voice resonating through the hall, is a failure of imagination. They cannot conceive of a world that does not revolve around them. They cannot imagine that the person they dismiss, the person they belittle, the person they deem lesser, might possess a power they cannot comprehend. She pauses, her eye sweeping over the faces of the students. They build their kingdoms on foundations of prejudice and pride, never realizing that those same foundations are made of sand. All it takes is one voice, speaking one truth, to wash it all away. Power is not a birthright, she concludes. It is a responsibility. And when it is abused, it will inevitably be broken. Remember that. The language of justice is a universal one. Learn to speak it fluently. But more importantly, learn to listen to it, no matter the accent of the person who is speaking. A profound silence hangs in the room for a moment. Then, the applause begins. It starts with a single person, then spreads, growing into a thunderous, standing ovation. Anaya smiles, a genuine, warm smile. She looks at her brother, who is beaming with pride. She has her family back. She has found her purpose. The kingdom of Marcus Thorne is a ruin, a cautionary tale whispered in the halls of power. But Anaya Sharma is building a new one. An empire of truth, built on a foundation of unshakable justice. And it is just the beginning.